to invite Mr. Banwari Lal Sharma, Chief Executive Officer, Consumer Business at Cartrade Tech, for his digital session on digitalization of the automotive retail ecosystem. Over to you, Mr. Sharma.
Thank you so much, Atul. And thank you, Dipanshu, for inviting. It's a pleasure being here with you. I'm going to put up a presentation. I think we ran over about 4 minutes on the last one. I hope I'm able to make that up for you. I'll try my best. Atul, can you see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay, it will go full screen now in a second. Yeah. Is it all right?
Yep, can see it.
Perfect, Banwari. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We've had a wonderful couple of conversations so far. To me, some of my discussion is going to be like a reinforcement to what has been said, and some could come as a new thing, or let's say again a reinforcing thing that you might have thought over the years. I've tried to kind of simplify the whole thing, and I may have oversimplified it, but bear with me. I hope it would add value. To me, digitalization of anything, any industry, typically would be consisting of these three aspects: accepting need, accepting change, tech enablement, and then managing mindset. And I'll go with each one of them in a certain way. But if we talk about accepting need, I'm very sure about that. Courtesy COVID, I think Mr. Bhan talked about it earlier today. Because of COVID, the entire country and the entire world on digitalization map has come quite forward. In fact, to me, it's literally like we've leapfrogged about 10 years, about a decade. What we could have done, let's say slowly, steadily over a period of 10 years, it has been done in the last 1.5 years. Because of the virtue, the way we are, and of course, there's no credit to COVID for this, and we shouldn't take any comfort. But point here is, we all think digital today. We don't really have to go to anybody and tell them that, guys, we have to be digital. I really don't come across a single entity, whether it's a dealer, whether it's an OEM, or any other partner in the ecosystem who doesn't believe that digital is here and digital is now. So that's kind of done. Still, I'll kind of reinforce with one slide. We did a survey, in fact, last year, and this survey is immediately after the COVID was kind of taken over. What you see on the screen is on the left, there are multiple things that people do on Carvale, and then there are pre-COVID, let's say, consumption, and then there's a post-COVID consumption. What you see on the top, literally the things which are on the top are more purchase-oriented, more close to the purchase, vis-a-vis things which are a little further down, which could be, let's say, an expert review, and then there were further things which I've hidden here. Point being, people in fact, this, as I said, that literally was about 3 months since the COVID hit, and this is particular slide, I took it from there. It changed so drastically, and the further, let's say, a year or so after that, it is further changed drastically for the country and for the world. Everybody understands this is where the need is, this is where the opportunity is. Of course, I'm not saying here that, and I think Mr. Shashank talked about how a very large percentage, 70% or 80%, I'm forgetting the number, people are willing to buy online, or let's say they consider things online. To me, people may not really come online and buy things completely online, especially cars and bikes right away in a large number, like a majority of percentage. But to me, even 5% people buying cars or bikes fully online is a win, and we should look forward to it. Moving to the second part of the discussion would be the tech enablement. Why it is important? This is the backbone. This is the thing which actually runs this entire digitalization. And there are multiple parts to it. I'll go with each one of them one by one. Let's start with understanding the consumer buying journey first. If we look at the entire car buying journey, or in fact, we can generalize it for bikes, we can generalize for used cars, new cars, or any other industry for that matter. We start with discovery and we go until advocacy. My discussion is largely going to focus on education, purchase, and post-purchase, but consider everything that I'm going to talk about today. Digital is too close and too integral part of this entire conversation. Discovery, whether you are a dealer, whether you are an OEM, or whether you are a company like Carvale, Bikewale, it is too important, and most of the discovery is now online anyway. So there's like this done already, and it was done pre-COVID, not really during COVID. COVID just expedited it to a different degree, but it is already done. Education, purchase, post-purchase, are being done and would be done. And I'll go through some of these aspects as we discuss further. The advocacy is like a byproduct which comes across and comes along when we do a very good job with these three aspects of a car buying journey or bike buying journey. If we do a good job with that, advocacy would be taken care of. But anyway, I'm going to talk about a bit of these three in between. Let's start with education. The entire journey you see from the top to the bottom, there are three parts which are I've taken from the previous slide. They talk about how people start the product discovery and how they're done buying, and they're talking about the buying journey experience and the entire consumption experience to their friends and families, and telling people to whether go through the same experience or not, or what they struggled with and what they really enjoyed. There are multiple things to this entire car buying journey. Mr. Srivastav again talked about some 24, 26 touch points for choosing a car, or let's say arriving at a decision. I've kind of summed them everything into 2-3 of them and gone forward really, let's say, into buying journey, not just a touch point of customer. So we look at let's say consumption of the products, comparisons, virtual tours, images, galleries. What should really, let's say, look at which car is really right for me, A versus B. When I arrive at a particular car, variant 1 versus variant 2, do I get the value on variant 2? Do I get really, do I pay a lot more on variant 3? But do I get a similar value, or do I get a disproportionate higher value? All of these decisions come under education, and of course, companies like ours help in putting proprietary content and stuff. But in general, if you see, this is something which a majority of it is important for everybody. Imagine a dealership wherein a customer really walks up, and people talked about it today, how that experience has to be unified, how that experience has to be similar. Now, if you're an OEM, and if you're looking at, let's say, a company like Carvale, or you're looking at your dealership and you have your own website, would you not worry about if the price of your product is, let's say, different on my website versus your website versus a dealer's website? And trust me, as Carvale, I can tell you, people, when they come to companies like ours or a company like yours, or they go to a dealership, they don't really differentiate between a dealer and an OEM and an aggregator, or let's say a media company. They just look at all of them in a similar lens. They believe this is what I'm consuming and this is what the truth is. So if I really, let's say, put up your price X percentage lower or higher, it actually detters the brand. Now, this collaboration has to happen, and really, let's say, we look at the entire journey to be unified, to make sure that wherever my product is listed, the price is quite accurate and I get that experience to the consumer. And I can keep talking about multiple things, whether they are expert reviews or, let's say, consumer reviews, whether they are demos and stuff. But moving to purchase, this becomes extremely critical. This is where the crux is going to be in next 2 to 3 years. And good news, a lot of you, a lot of us have already gone there. But this is going to be the battleground. This is going to be the ground wherein we have to prepare ourselves really, really well. So where it comes to, let's say, looking at the right price, we go further and we look at a product which is really the final price. If I make a phone call to a dealership, let's say, and they say, okay, come over, I can give you probably 2% further down than that. And then I really go up there and I, let's meet a different sales executive, and my experience goes further, let's say, different when he says something else. And when what I really get is different from what, let's say, my colleague at work got 3 days ago. This kind of, and somebody talked about, I think Sashank or Mr. Bhan, one of those people talked about that, how people don't trust dealerships, and there's no fault of dealership. When you employ millions of people across, let's say, country, in so many dealerships across sales and services, it's not really easy to really, let's say, make a unified discussion on things like these. A car would have probably 300, 400 parameters. A pricing would have probably 10, 15 parameters. There's so many discounts, so many bonuses. An OEM puts a discount. I have my own discount as a dealership. There is an exchange bonus. There is a loyalty bonus. There's so many things that go into just pricing alone. And if you look at the specs and features and the dynamics of how new products keep arriving at the dealerships, and keeping, let's say, people that are employed informed and really to the point all the time is not easy. So whether we move into, let's say, now further complexities like valuation and exchanges, right? I bring my car and I want to, let's say, look at a new car. What do you offer to my car? Is it similar to what I got somewhere else? Is it higher? Is it lower? It again, let's say, builds or breaks trust. Whether I talk about finance options, whether I talk about test scheduling, I keep talking about to people, let's say, while a test drive has been such a big thing for the entire country across OEMs, across dealers, why we would not offer, let's say, a Uber or Ola kind of experience to the test drive guys? If I'm going to buy a car, why can't I really, let's look at my leisurely time at 11 p.m. in the night, look at what slots are available for that particular car, that particular variant, and that particular gearbox and engine options. And if the car can be available day after at my office for 2 hours, and if I can schedule it, let's say by verifying my OTP, giving my all the address, etc., and I, let's say, tell my wife and children to walk up, or really I go to my house and let's say get a test drive done, it could be superlative experience, and it takes nothing because you're giving test drives anyway, day in and day out. As an OEM, as a dealer, we are all really aligned with thought process that if I really take my product to the consumer and experience it, they're extremely likely to buy it than without. Why not invest into it? And it's all technology, finance options, right? Of course, dealers, OEMs, companies like Carvale also depend on people like dealership, people like financiers, right? They have to be ready as well. But this is something which is going to be fundamentally very different again. I should be able to start my journey looking at a certain finance quote and then walk up to 3 dealers, arrive at a certain, let's say, price on the product, plug in my entire thing into the dealership and take a loan of my choice, because let's say I deal with HDFC Bank and I'm an Imperial customer, or I could work with ICICI Bank as a wealth management customer, and they could offer me 0.2% lower interest rate than a dealership would normally offer. And I know it beforehand, really. I walk up to dealer before that. It helps me tremendously. And of course, it goes further down. There's so many things. I would not read everything here. You go post-purchase and you talk about how the experience should be. But just to tell you the point here, all of this has to be digitalized. All of this has to be done so well, so connected that when the consumer buys the product, he feels really, really great. Today, you buy a TV on Amazon, you feel really great because you know really when my TV is really getting shipped, when it is arriving, will I be at home at that point of time? Really, I give the OTP and the TV is here, my demo would be done, and then let's say I use my product in a number of days from really clicking that button. This experience, let's say for a product which is n times more expensive, isn't available. Isn't it pity? I see it as a big thing, and I would say we all work towards it. I'll quickly move forward in the best interest of time. If you look at the current automotive retail digital ecosystem, I put a very simplified slide here, and pardon me if I say something which may not really go down very well, but I believe as a techno business person that what I really see and what I saw in the last 17, 18 years of my life working with companies like yourself and the entire ecosystem, I can tell you that things are really, really complicated. And let's start with DMS for a second. It's the holy grail of industry, right? The OEMs, the dealers, some love it, some hate it. And it is built on trust. Or rather, let me put it this way: it was built on trust. A DMS was supposed to be the holy grail because it has so much of data, it has so much of really information, so much of stuff that is so secret and so really discreet and so really private. And hence, there were so many things that were built to secure the data, which was fantastic job done. And I really believe a system like that should be like that. Having said that, I believe it is too rigid. It becomes a little bit of problem at times when the system, for example, cannot talk to a CRM or an LMS, or let's say a retail platform that a dealership is building or an OEM is building, a marketing platform, a remarketing platform, or let's say a finance tool that they have. They say it's too really sacred. It is holy grail. No, you can't touch it. It is really, let's say somebody would really be sitting somewhere in the West, or let's say somewhere in the East or wherever, and they say that no, this is something which we can't touch, and it really hampers the entire what you say ecosystem. And more often than not, most of the people I talk to seem helpless to me. None of their fault, none of anybody's fault for that matter. It's just that any system for that matter, when it is too big and too old, they seem to tend into really getting into a problem. Like human beings like us, as a 40-year-old, myself would be far more rigid than, let's say, my 7-year-old kid, right? What he sees and what he consumes and what he tells me is very different than what I see and consume and what I believe in. It's called a generation gap, and software is also a generation gap. So to me, CRM can't talk to DMS. It doesn't know really, let's say, who I pushed into the system and who really got converted and who was really right. What AI and machine learning are we talking about? What system really, what AI and machine learning can do without having proper data? Unless we have those doors built in, what can really be done here, right? Most part of the ecosystem are not really built around the customer. They are built around the secrecy, the privacy, the entire, what is say, good. I'm really grateful to companies like Amazon for bringing AWS and Azure, or let's say Google Cloud, because at least they put in something which is faster. There was a point in time, n number of years ago, wherein everybody would have their servers, and this problem I'm talking about, if I gave this presentation 10 years ago, it would have been probably 4 times the challenge. Everything is in a silo, everything is broken, there's no real-time information flow, the leads, whether they are getting converted or not, let's say sometimes they get a disposition probably 7 days down the line, sometimes let's say you could be lucky, you get the next day, a few could get in a few hours. You should know really in real time, right, to build systems which can really, really digitalize this entire ecosystem. And they are completely platform independent. Some work on mobile, some don't work on mobile, some have apps, some don't have apps. Whether if you go to this particular system, the behavior is like that. When you go to that system, the behavior is like that. If you walk up to dealership, you get this experience. You go to OEM side, you get that experience. You come to Carvalho, you get something else, right? So this entire thing, if you see, is really, really broken to me. That is the current automotive retail digital ecosystem. Having said that, I wouldn't say that things are not changing. Some of them have really, really changed already, and some are changing. I'll start again what it should be, the new automotive retail ecosystem. If I say the digital ecosystem, online retail has to be at the center. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that you really go out and change this entire system to put digital, let's say, as the sole thing. And we all talked about today, it's a physical thing, right? It's the thing wherein everything will come together. But if you do not think online retail, and online retail is not going to be a majority percentage sales platform for a considerable amount of time. I'm not really suggesting that next year 50% of your sale is going to come online. It won't. Point is, we have to build systems thinking like this. Online retail is going to be the future. Now, is it 5 years away, 10 years away? Time will tell. And things like COVID could expedite this. Something else could happen in the future. Our own, let's say, thought process has considerably changed in the last couple of years, all of us. So to me, if you put online retail as a center, you start thinking like that, all of this would change. So your systems will change, whether they are DMSs, they would have to plugs, wherein let's say a new age organization can plug in, a CRM can plug in, an LMS can plug in, a finance can plug in. Of course, security is important. Of course, data privacy is important, but we can't really harp on data privacy as a phenomenon to come back and give an excuse that, boss, we can't connect because if I connect, my data is at stake. Build better technology platform, build better safeties, build better security, build better privacy algorithms, but do provide plugins, do provide APIs so that people, when they're really marketing organizations of, let's say, India in the automotive space, spend thousands of crores. And sorry to say, I don't really, let's say, demean anybody here, but a fair amount of them do not have a clue what is happening to those customers. When they generate the lead, what really happens there? They don't know about it because the systems are not really connected. How can we really be so apathetic towards, let's say, a situation like this? And when we say all of us, customer is really at the center, to me, customer is not really at the center. So this has to be changing like this to make sure that as a country, as a country, we really put digital as a first thing, because that's what it is going to be. India leapfrogs many things majority of the time. People of India don't really go stepwise. If US did it, let's say 30 years ago, we'll do it in 30 years. Some of the things could be true, but majority of things are going to be leapfrogging. What US did last year, we may be doing already. If not done already, there could be certain things wherein India would be ahead of the West. Are we prepared for that? We should be prepared for that. I'll quickly just give you let's say 3-4 points here, how I see as the entire, let's say, ecosystem evolving. 4 things to me. One is, and I'm not saying that, I'm not suggesting there'll be a company which will do this. I'm saying as an ecosystem, we all, whether it is Carvalho, whether it's an OEM, whether it is a dealership, or whether they are those companies that work for this ecosystem, all of us will have to think like this. We have to be platform agnostic. We have to really give experience, which is we put customer at the center, and then we really give a platform agnostic experience, which means whether you go to a web, whether you go to my site, your site, his site, her site, doesn't matter. The experience is there. The expectations of customer when they behave, when they interact, with your brand, they get the same experience. It has to be a real-time information flow. Systems have to be, and this is 2021. Come on, this is done already. Let's in so many industries already. We are not really asking for something which is something not happening. And luckily, there are a lot of organizations which are working on this part. Real-time information flow. All systems have to talk in real time and flow the information. If I behaved, let's say, interacted with Carvale or interacted, let's say, on a brand site or a dealership site, the sales executive at the dealership end will get the notification that Banwari is interacting or interacted with you, and he's looking at this product, and he has to give me a call right away. And that's when the magic will happen, right? It has to cater to all the parties involved, whether it is dealership, OEM, customer, their executives, service, any other, let's say, finance, insurance, all those ecosystems have to be taken care of. And it has to be built ground up for retail online, which I already talked about. Now we come to the managing mindset part, which is the last part of my conversation. To me, everything else has been fairly easy. Managing mindset will not be easy. And I'll tell you why managing mindset will not be easy, because this is something which is a human change, right? Any change within human head takes time. We accept, let's say, certain change as a owner, as a leader. When we go down a little, we really employ thousands and thousands of people. Changing everyone's mindset is not easy. If a sales executive comes back and tells me that, guys, it's not working out because of XYZ reason, we tend to have doubts, we tend to have double thoughts. We have to really move over. We really have to accept the fact that this is the future, it is already here. I have no choice but to do it. Now, anybody resisting it has to be really brainwashed, really worked with, really sat down and make sure that they understand that this has to be done. And as I said, not one team is going to do that. You will have to understand that we are going to talk about, it's not about software, it's not about dealership, it's not about OEM, it's about the entire ecosystem. Everybody has to grow to make sure that we really grow as a country, as an automotive ecosystem, and then really that magic, we're able to really get benefit out of that. I was hearing somebody yesterday and they talked about how India's GDP grew 6x in last, let's say, 20 years. At the same time, the productivity has, productivity and GDP, productivity per GDP has improved 6x, while the number of people, the workers, have only increased by 30%. Some 30 million workers to 47 million workers in the last 20 years. But GDP growing so much because productivity per person has grown up. To me, digital is going to bring that productivity up, which is going to be beneficial to all of us, because why a company like Carvale or Cartrade Tech Limited is so valued, because we're asset light. And how we will asset light? A lot of technology does what a human is supposed to do. Let technology do what a technology thing can do, and let humans do what a technology can't do. And that's where the real marriage is. I'll give you a little bit as I leave this discussion today. If I come back to this particular side, and I picked up from internet, this is a slide wherein a fintech ecosystem in a small country like Netherlands, how many companies are operating in a country like Netherlands. There was a point in time, there was something called bank, right? There was a bank like HDFC Bank, ICICI, SBI, whatever. For an ISBI to disrupt them, there are going to be companies like this. And trust me, in our ecosystem, there's going to be companies like that. There's going to be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. There are going to be companies, this many or more, doing very specific things, small things. Somebody would come and do only test drives for new cars. And they will change the ecosystem so big and so good that nobody can compete with them. Let them do it. Let's plug into them. Let's really give them opportunity. Let them become big. Let them make money. But at the same time, let me solve my test drive problem. Let me solve my finance problem. Let me solve my insurance problem. Let me solve my, my training program. This slide kind of tells you that the country, the ecosystem in the country, automotive ecosystem, digital, is going to be fragmented and disrupted so badly if we are not really ready. Look at companies like Nokia or Kodak and Yahoo's and MySpaces. So big companies, too big to fall. They disappeared from the map of the world. And it can happen to any one of us if we are rigid. We have to be really accepting. We have to really make sure and understand that I can't do it all. Let people take opportunity and do it. Let the best people do what they can do best. With this, I thank you all here. I'm